I realized that life is hard and you have to kind of take what it gives you. Everything came easy to me, everything.
Competitive fire. Unforgettable moments. College tennis players tune up for a tournament tomorrow with teams from the Atlantic Sun Conference. But tonight brings a chance to wear pretty dresses as these student athletes celebrate at a special dinner. The guest speaker is a former tennis player named Blake McMeans, who could have beaten anyone in this audience. Could have beaten just about anyone, anywhere.
He was amazing. He was always in the top 10 and lots of times in the top 5 in the country and very heavily recruited.
Blake was top 10 in the world. He was very unusually gifted athletically. He was a great athlete for a tennis player.
And at dinner tonight, Blake McMeans, star athlete, has the undivided attention of everyone here before he ever says a word.
My name is Blake McMeans. I'm here to talk to you about drinking and driving. As they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And if you saw me walk up here to the podium, you saw a picture of someone who decided to drink and drive.
Blake remembers when he was about to be a college tennis player himself. About to be. Not only was he gifted athletically, but also academically. He had graduated early from high school and decided to stay in his hometown of Knoxville to follow in the footsteps of his dad, who had been a star player and captain of the University of Tennessee football team.
I thought he was going to be a pro. He was going to go to the University of Tennessee with Coach Mike DePalma for a year or two, and then he was going to go on the circuit.
And Blake had lots of friends. He was surrounded by people who admired him.
I was voted best looking at my school. I was like one of the most popular guys.
It was great to grow up with a stud big brother, you know, great athlete, always one of the coolest guys on campus.
So it's no surprise that Blake was recruited by some of the top fraternities at the University of Tennessee.
Everything was kind of like a celebrity status for me around Knoxville.
But not everything is as perfect as it seems. As he will tell you now, Blake was sneaking alcohol from his parents' liquor cabinet when he was just 12 years old. And the older he got, the more he wanted to drink.
It was what everybody else was doing. And I didn't want to be like this big-time tennis player who didn't have fun.
Then something terrible happened. The worst thing Blake had ever faced in his young life.
My dad was jogging and he had a heart attack. They said he was dead before he hit the ground. I loved him with all my heart. It was devastating.
With grief as the catalyst, Blake started drinking even more. And as strange as it seems, his sister Blair was given a frightening glimpse into the future.
It sounds bizarre, but I had a dream that my mom was pushing a wheelchair and that it was Blake in the wheelchair.
On the evening of November 10th, 1994, Blake went to meet some of his future frat brothers from Sigma Chi at a hangout in an area known as the Strip, just off campus.
And I just said, please don't drink and drive back home. I can remember he was on his way out the door, he was in a hurry, and he was like, okay, Blair, you know, just, I was being nagging.
Blake didn't want to hear any of it. He just wanted to have a good time. It was a big night, one he thought he would never forget.
I really don't remember that night, but I mean, I'm just gonna go by previous nights. I probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 beers, maybe more.
I was blindsided. I mean, for him to stand and say how much he was drinking would just totally blew me away. I had no clue.
And then I drove every time. I don't know why. Man, I wish I did.
About 2:25 in the morning, our dispatch was notified from 911 center that there was a motor vehicle crash on North Shore Drive.
I remember my mom waking me up in the middle of the night in a state of panic.
Mr. McMeans, about where this vehicle is right now.
Half a mile from home.
Once he left this two-lane roadway with no shoulder, he came down the embankment through the trees in the woods here, knocking over several smaller trees.
Yeah, flipped 3 times.
The phone rang, and then I heard her screaming.
I could smell the strong odor of alcohol about his presence. And he's airlifted on out to the University Hospital.
You know, I just made one bad decision. That's it.
One mistake, just drinking that one time and that one wreck, and you know, once the wreck starts, you can't stop.
The rest are pretty evident.
When he reached the emergency room at the University of Tennessee Medical Center, the first priority was to keep Blake alive.
He was fortunate he wasn't aware of all the things that happened. The tube in his windpipe, the tube down his nose into his stomach, a tube into his bladder, pulling and poking, being stuck with IVs and given fluid, and then moved around so we can fully evaluate to see exactly what all the injuries are.
They had no hope for him.
At each and every point of Blake's case, he was at high risk for dying.
And I prayed, I will take him any way, Lord, I can get him. Just please don't take him away from me.
While Blake survived the initial trauma, he remained in a coma. His care transitioned from trauma surgeons to specialists in rehabilitative medicine, and the chances of significant recovery seemed unlikely.
Blake was very, very severely damaged. Many people with his kind of injury die. They don't make it to the next level.
I was unconscious for 3 months, almost 4. So it was a pretty long time.
He was paralyzed in both arms, both legs. Still, the right was severely paralyzed, couldn't do anything with it. And the left side, just some partial movements.
But it wasn't just Blake who was hurt. This is the kind of injury that devastates an entire family.
I really struggled as his mother, you know. Here's a kid who had it all, and I don't understand that anything would be so great that you, Lord, who are so wonderful, would allow this to happen.
I was scared. I was angry too. Finding out you can't walk, you can't speak, Now those are pretty major blows.
We would literally have to tie him in the chair, prop his head up with the neck thing, and take him into therapy and beg him to hold us, try to get his head up, try to blink. I mean, he had to learn to swallow. It took him a year to learn to swallow.
No one can understand because they can't. You probably can't even imagine that, not being able to utter a sound. Now that's ridiculous. But it was a situation I was faced with, so I had to overcome it.
Until now, Blake had very little to overcome. He was a child with opportunities and a loving home, with a mother who cheered for him in everything he did. Then, in an instant, her handsome young man went from star athlete to invalid.
I'd spent 18 years traveling with him all across the country, watching every ball he ever hit, living and breathing everything he did. He was my firstborn. To total disabled child who for 4 months could do nothing and for a year could do barely anything. So it's been a long journey.
You have this Rip Van Winkle phase. You don't know what's going on. Your family's just dying. Doing a vigil in the hospital, not eating right or sleeping right, and maybe ignoring other things in their life.
Hospital rooms were where my mom slept for about a year. That year was just pretty much a blur. And it was even more so for my mom, so I could say, one thing it did is it took my mom out of my life, which was the only parent I had. It took away my big brother, and that was a big adjustment. The person that, was my hero that I idolized.
It was a time when even the slightest improvement in Blake's condition brought joy to his family.
Everything became, so wonderful when he could blink and swallow and say a few words and learn to go to the bathroom again by himself and learn to button his clothes, pull up his pants. He couldn't do any of that for a long time.
It had started with a fight for survival, but then came the reality that he was going to live.
Right after the accident, I guess I went through a lot of depression, and where I didn't feel like life was worth living anymore.
The body's not working right, he's not talking like you'd like. And this mother, it just breaks her heart. I'm just praying you'd wake up and could talk and walk and all these things, and now you're so depressed about it. It just breaks my heart. And it broke all our hearts, too.
From trauma to rehab, and then psychotherapy. But there was a lingering thought that started with Blake while he was in a coma. It's his only memory from the nearly 4 months he was unconscious.
I had a dream or something. I mean, I don't know what it was, but God appeared and said, "It's not your time."
Blake realized his life still had meaning and value, and the same fortitude that helped make him a tennis star, the inner strength that helped him survive, would now be used to build his future.
I think in rehab it's very important to accept where you are and look forward. Look for the future and look at the gains you make from that point.
He became the young man that he is today by small inches and years of working and trying things and going back to the drawing board and psychologists and speech therapist and physical therapist. I mean, it just did not miraculously happen, but only through the guidance, I think, of the Lord did we keep on keeping on.
And with each new day, Blake accepts the challenge of working hard to get better.
I can basically do pretty much everything on my own except button my shirt and tie my shoes. I struggle with my right side. My right arm doesn't work. Really, I mean, I can get some movement out of it, but it's getting better now.
Several times a week, Blake and his assistant, James Barron, load up in the specially equipped van to head for the YMCA. It is one of Blake's favorite things to do.
There are times when I see him in the wheelchair rolling into the Y or rolling into places we're going where I have to pinch myself and think that's really Blake, you know, that's who we are, that's where we are.
But it's right where Blake says he wants to be.
I've learned to walk now. That's pretty amazing because it took me 7 years to even stand up from my chair. That's a long time. Especially trying to do it every day, several times a day. You know, just keeping at it, doing it again and again. If this hadn't happened, I'd probably be playing tennis somewhere, doing something for myself. Now I get a chance to go out and speak and give a message to people about what happened to me and what shouldn't happen to them.
Such perspective certainly brings respect from those who meet him or watch him work out at the Y.
This is 20. Why don't you give me 10 more?
Okay.
All right? It just reminds you, you know, it doesn't matter where you're at in life, you can give it all you got, and Blake makes the best out of life, and he's got more drive, and he's got more reason to live than a lot of people do.
Blake's attitude has also helped his mother adjust to how his life has changed.
The looks, the stares that people give you have been very difficult. Now that doesn't faze me. But in the beginning it was like, I don't want to be looked at anymore, I don't want him looked at anymore. They're looking at us like we're a sideshow. You know, you've gone from total admiration at the top of the pinnacle to, oh my gosh, they're looking at us like we're a sideshow, you know, and you feel like that.
Blake is certainly not a sideshow now. He's back at center court. On this day, he has a police escort to a high school in East Tennessee, where he is pursuing the passion that replaced tennis, talking to young people about drinking and driving.
What's important to me is getting the message out so no one has to go through what I've been through. I mean, that's the main thing, because I'm afraid if many other people had to go through this, what I've been through, they kill themselves. That's how hard it was.
That message begins having an impact the instant Blake is introduced to his young audiences.
That's something he come up with himself. So James, I want to be able to get up out of my chair and walk a couple of steps to the podium. That gathers their attention, and my buddy, it definitely does. And I have been with him each time, and you know one thing? It grabs my attention too.
When I was in school like you are, I hoped and dreams for my life. Dreams of becoming a professional athlete. Today, those dreams are different. They have to be. Today, I must concentrate on someday being able to live totally on my own. Big difference there. Being popular with friends is not worth your life. Believe me, I know. Not worth it. If I had to do it all over again, I would do things a lot differently. I wouldn't wish my condition on my worst enemy. Too tough. I'm challenging students today, right now, to make a promise to me not to drink and drive or ride with anyone who's been drinking.
From the reaction he gets, Blake is convinced he is making a difference. Students line up to talk with him after his speech. He even gets emails from many of them later. One in particular stays with him.
She said, "You changed my life." Now think about that. I mean, another human being telling you you changed their life. That's pretty strong. I mean, it about gave me chills. Yes, sir.
While he will never again be one of the top-ranked tennis players in the world, Blake returned to the game to coach a single player, Charlie Boyd.
Good sir. I just kind of took a liking to him because I saw how hard he worked, and it reminded me of me, and I didn't want to work with anyone who didn't work hard.
Knowing what he's had to overcome has really helped me, one, cherish the time I have on the court, and two, not worry about the hard work that it takes to be good at this sport.
Hit through it.
He can't play the game that he loves anymore. I can. That's a gift.
With Blake's help, Charlie went from near the bottom of the lineup on his high school tennis team to All-American in college. And just as Charlie has exceeded all expectations, so has Blake.
This person I saw at the beginning and watched for the first few weeks and then saw where he is now, I'd use a word like shocked. It was wonderful. It was miraculous kind of improvement.
I do remember thinking that there are some things worse than death, but I've changed all my thinking about that because I think his life is so much better than most, and he's so much more purposeful than most, that death would have been tragic for this child.
I want everyone to know that none of this would have been possible without God. I mean, He's the one who allowed me to come back like I have. And I know it took a long time, but I'm getting back. And you just gotta thank Him. I'm lucky I survived. I just made one bad decision.
You walk around and kids walk around, and that could only happen to them. It could happen to anybody.
If Blake knew then what he knows now, he would have made a different decision.
What if? What if he'd never had this crash? I'd never investigated it. You know, I would be reading about it in the papers probably as, you know, a top-ranked professional athlete in the tennis field nowadays. But
someone said it's smart to learn from your own mistakes, but it is wise to learn from the mistakes of others. Blake hopes you'll learn from his.
I'm challenging students today, right now, to make a promise to me not to drink and drive or ride with anyone who's been drinking.
Blake making one bad decision changed his life forever. He is a living example of what one bad decision can do to the rest of your life.